I'm always like, can I build a table in 15 minutes? Probably. This wood actually came off of this barn, which makes it even more interesting. You know, people always need little tables. It's a carbide blade, so it cuts. Most of the time, you would use an abrasive peel saw, but I don't really like those because they just emit so much nastiness. This takes like the slightest little bite out of it. And your measurements, you know, as far as like precise, you really can be off a little bit. Not that I've done this enough to be able to go pretty good, but you'll notice when I make the cut, like if I make a cut, one of the things, when I pick up the material, I'll drop it out because there's going to be a lot of trash in here. Let's see, let's use this. Typically, I keep the table pretty clean. This is not how I would present this whole thing. But it is a way in which, you know, I'm going to build a table with tools that may total $1,000 that anybody could put in their garage. So there's the bags. Now we're going to get rid of this. Get this out of the way. And we're going to cut some 25s. Steel always has seams on it. I try to, like where they fold it together and weld it, I try to keep all of my seams on the same. You don't want to see a table with a clean side of steel and then suddenly have a seam side up. You always want your seams to be down or on the inside where they're not visible. So what I'm going to do is look at them and see where the seam is. And that'll tell me where they need to be cut. What I'm doing when I do that is I'm getting rid of the little burrs that are in the inside of it. You can kind of see them collected all right over here. Come around here and you can see what it does. It just cuts these little tiny shavings out. So here we are with a Miller 141 from MIG. Mixed inert gas, which the gas is going to be back here. You can buy this and use it without gas, and that would be called a flux core welder. And that's where the gas is powderized onto the wire. And that, a lot of people, you know, a lot of first timers just want to weld with flux core, but it's actually a horrible way to learn how to weld. Having a tank of gas makes all the difference in the world. You also notice I have 4 grinders, and all 4 of them have a different disc on it, and that is through time I've learned that it takes a lot of time to switch all these out. So I just have 4 grinders. Nikita, right? That's the business. Okay, so here we go. So here we're gonna produce some ultraviolet light. All right. So seam side down. You'll notice the seam side is down. This one got a little. You can about fix anything with a grinder. Also, so now we're just going to take a quick peek. Just going to do this real quick. Going to clean the corners and square it up. What I'm doing is I'm taking the corners off to be able to then square it up. So a lot of people don't realize that squaring something like this is just going from one to the other. So you got 25 and 5/8. We got 25 and 5/8. And so once again, like these are going to be your legs. There's always like a little bit of a burr because of the saw, the way that it cuts it. But it's also very important. Like first off, we're gonna flip this over because our legs are gonna everything's gonna be seam side down. A rubber mallet is always nice, so you can just to make sure. A lot of noise in this job. And then I'm gonna clean the corners real quick. And what I mean is, like, you need a nice clean surface. A lot of people would go ahead and weld on this, but I like the mill. This is called mill scale that's on there. So I'm gonna take it off. You know, these things do come with safety guards and handles, but OSHA did not approve. So now. Made a clean surface. I've taken any sort of mill scale or rust off of there. And now we're just going to tack some legs on here real quick. And so I've got pretty square cuts, but they're never as square as you might think. So you just kind of gotta take square. They're square. It needs to come this way. So what I'm going to do, this is a pretty interesting way. So the leg needs to come this way. So I'm going to go ahead and tack it on this front corner. So it gives me the ability to pull it my way a little bit. This way here, this side of here is square. So here we go. All right. And when you heat it up like that, it's going to move around. The heat's going to cause it. So we need it to come this way. So then I'm going to tack it on this side. And that creates a pivot. So see if you look at it from here, we're not square, and they can just hold it as one. And then the other side. And we're going to go ahead and do them all. And the reason for that is so you can get sort of a flow going on. So that one needs to come this way. So let's hang it right down here in this corner. And when I say tack, most people understand it, but don't do now. And that's just spot welding, just put a little bit of something on there, because if you needed to take it off, it would be much easier to take it off now than to take it off later. And it's really all of this the hard way. I never went to any sort of a welding class or anything. I learned how to weld from a man who I bought art from because I loved it so much. This was when I had a skateboard shop, and I sold that because the kids were driving me crazy. That's how this became my job. And when I started doing this 20-some years ago, it was like, not many people did it. And there's still not many of us. The combination of wood and metal is what makes this so cool, because not everybody can weld, so you get the chance to do a metal frame with a wood top and vice versa. Now this one is a little cockeyed, so what I'm going to do is correct it real quick. Nikita. I know, I shouldn't have ear protection. I'm trying to make a table in 15 minutes. That's how I'm doing it. Oops. So it needs to go that way. So I'm going to put another weld on here and create that pivot I was talking about earlier. Now we have a table. So now I'm going to quickly weld it up. Okay, and you can see here, this is kind of what you want to see. If you want to, and I will mix them up. I won't do all my welding on one area because the heat will be too much and it'll cause it to warp. And another thing that I would do sometimes is actually weld the surface of the table to the table, the work table. So now I'm just going to run this little bead right here. So I'll mix it up. Well, this is my ground. A good ground always helps, especially creating a current. Right over here. And another thing that happens, and it's still happening to me sometimes, is when you're starting out, you definitely have a tendency to want to touch it. You will burn yourself. And I use my welder, I would call this the pistol. I use it like kind of like holding a pool stick. A lot of people have always asked me why I do that like that. And you know, I have a little shake sometimes when I have too much coffee, which is every day. And but you can kind of see what happens here. And the great thing about this is that if you need something, maybe a table or maybe just fixing something, or messing around with a little car project or something, this welder will do all of that and then some. And this is runs on 110, just like your normal outlet. Okay, so we're going to weld these up. Now this can be the hardest thing here because if you think about it, this leg right here that is the thinnest point where this is rolled around, so there's more material on the top. So what I'm doing is I'm going to weld on the top above the seam, and the weld itself will come down and cover that seam versus putting the heat to this thinner part and it'll just blow holes through it. So maybe you can see in the video there that I am hitting my upper section. You'll notice the table has a little, so we got a little wobble to it, but you can push it out the end. And a lot of times it has to do with the welding table itself. But you know, something that I've always lived and breathed by, it's, you know, like the legs don't have to be perfectly straight. A lot of, you know, most people would just assume that you make the legs in the corners like this, but you can bring your legs inside, give it a little hangover, you know. Anyway, we'll just move it along. If you need levelers that you can put on the bottom of the piece, those are available at any sort of Lowe's or Home Depot or Fitch Lumber. I should say this. Alright, so we're done there now. So what we're going to do now is we're going to weld these seams up. So I just want to quickly clean them off a little bit. We're going to get this thing a bit grimy after we're done with everything. And then this one's got this little gap right here. Sometimes the saw will catch. So what we're going to do is we're going to move those together a little bit and close that gap up. And now we're going to weld it shut. Pretty much make anything from anything. Scrap yards are really great. I mean, just look all around you. There's stuff everywhere. Like what I'm doing now. Scrap yards are really great. I mean, just look all around you. There's stuff everywhere. Like what I'm doing now.
How much will you typically spend on materials to build something like this?
This would come in what you would call a 20-foot stick, and that 20-foot stick would cost you $20. You do, in most cases, in most areas, you need to have a commercial address in order to get have a huge truck bring in steel.
I see.
They love me, so I normally would never use this size angle iron. I'm not really in love with that. It's too thick too. See, most of the time I would have used an angle that is more flush, but this will add, it'll look good. You won't really notice it anyway. And then, like we were talking about the plasma cutter, you don't really need a plasma cutter. You can cut things with cutoff disc on Makita grinders. Okay, so we have a table base. Normally these would have holes in them. So you look at this piece of wood, you can obviously see that this has the most interesting side to it. One thing I also like to do is get rid of your welding gloves when you're playing with wood. Having a wood shop and a metal shop is a dream of mine, but I don't have it. But I will have it one day. And this end of the wood down here doesn't look so straight. And we're going to cut that. You could use a chop saw, it's like another tool on the table. I just typically like to, I'm pretty good at holding those things. And I like poplar just because it has so much character to it, as you'll see here in a minute. And then really with poplar, I don't really like to sand it because it really takes away from the beauty of it. And this screw down would definitely help. It's missing a little bit, but it's got plenty of character to it, so you let it ride. I kind of like the roughness of things. I don't really go for this ultra fine furniture look. And then I'm going to need to cut this. I'm going to take this one out because I'm going to cut this out. I don't mind it being a little loose in there and all of the above. Like, instead of trying to get it so perfect, just like go with it. It looks great. We could take If you wanted to, we could take a little bit out of each one, so each board is even. That sounds boring. These are my lines. A little bit of an angle, just trying to keep that all natural. So you got your natural live edge, as they say these days. I like to finish it out like you like that little seam back there, you know?
Yeah.
So I'll go and I'll use I like the rusty spots. I'm taking some of the little burrs off, you know, that can be a little sharp. So from this point, I would use a palm sander, which I will use. This wood came out of a goat barn, and smell that. Smell the top. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And that was, you know, I mean, I don't even know how many years ago, but a long time ago. And then for those that don't know, these holes that you see are wormholes. And then here, this is kind of like, these are nail holes, of course. Most people don't realize that the reason that they have this appearance is that, you know, the nails are made from steel, so they will rust inside the wood. And that's like, so that is the reason that you would see the lines coming down. There you go. Okay, so one very important thing is, like, you always want to wear your gloves. Everybody's gonna want to come over and touch the table before it has a finish on it. And believe me, it will show back up. The oil from your fingers, if I was to take these gloves off and touch it, put a clear finish on it, in a month you would look down and you would see my fingerprints right there. So, I mean, we're doing this on short time, but normally I would clean this with mineral spirits, paint thinner, or something like that. I would have holes in the angle iron. And we're going to spray it right out here. One other good thing to do is I will sometimes take things that are finished and put them out in the sun so the steel will get warm. Because this stuff doesn't dry that quick, but it's Minwax. Whenever you see spar urethane, that means it's got UV protection. So that would keep it from losing its gloss if it was sitting in a window. This will not keep or prevent rust if you were to put it outside. But it's an oil finish. Takes a little while to actually dry. But if you want to come take a shot of this right here, and you'll see before and after. Like, see those little rust spots and all of this. A lot of people would become obsessed with grinding it all down and stuff like that. I don't like that look. And now watch what this does. And of course you need to work quickly or it will run, just as with any other finish. I like to use high gloss. Really gives it a nice look. And a couple coats is always recommended. And normally also, I would start by doing it upside down so you can get the bottom versus having to do it this way. It's actually easier for me to make 4 of these at one time versus 1. So you cut all your material, cut all your angles, do all your welding just in like a production, and you'll see that like once you get your welding down and such, it's much easier to make 4 than 1. And then the reason for that, for me, would be that you can go to like a local market or an arts crafts kind of thing and sell these easily for $150 each. So if you can take the fact that it took me 15 minutes, basically when it's all said and done, if I was prepared for it in my shop, 15 minutes, so you take 1 hour to make 4 tables and sell for $150 each. And then come back and look at the finish on it now. You can see it's got a nice little sheen to it. I would recommend putting 2 coats on it versus just 1. And so, we would have these fastened down. You live edges on both ends there, and there you go.